All right, good morning, guys. So I've got Kathy from Bees on a Bicycle here. I'm super excited to hear everything she's got to say. You guys, stay tuned. If you're local to Chattanooga, gotta check them out. It's absolutely amazing.
They're still playing stuff.
Can you hear it pretty good?
No, they were playing a commercial when you were talking.
Oh yeah, I'm talking to Facebook Live.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, there you go. All right, guys, welcome to Wellness Radio. I'm your health expert, Dr. Nathan Warren. And so today we've got a great show lined up for you. I'm super excited to be on here. I love doing this every Saturday morning, as you guys know, one of my favorite times of the week, where we get to actually share, what it takes to not only work on your health, but what it actually takes to, get sustainable health for not only you, but for your family. We know that right now, statistics show that things like cancer, heart disease, diabetes, these things are only getting worse, yet we're throwing massive amounts of money, at these things, massive amounts of research. So we have to recognize that the pathway we're going down is not the way that's going to solve these issues. And so we want to come up with real solutions. We want to talk to you about, what does the scientific literature say? That's really so funny because we'll go in and we'll have patients that come in and they're like, I talked to my cardiologist, I talked to my nephrologist, I talked to all these people, and they said to take this med and this and this and this. And I'm like, I dive into the research and I'm like, in no way does it say that you should be doing this or this. Again, we have to talk about science and not dogma, right? And so that's two whole different scenarios. And so on here we give real solutions and we talk about real health problems, again, so that you guys can get well and stay well. So I've got a special guest on today. I'm super excited about. This is something I think you guys are like literally right down the street from our house, which is super convenient. This is Kathy from Bees on a Bicycle, right? And
Yes.
how long have you guys been here in Chattanooga?
We've been here for 2 years. It was our 2-year anniversary in June.
Awesome. Oh man. Okay. So give us kind of this overall like concept view of what you wanted to bring to Chattanooga and why you wanted to open this specific place.
Well, when we opened Bees on a Bicycle, we initially were like, okay, let's have a little urban garden center so that we could have an access for folks with balconies and doorways on a smaller scale with container gardening. And then as I got to know more and more about the garden center business, even though I'd worked at a large big box garden center and my personal gardening journey, I realized that sustainability was an area that I wanted to get deeper and deeper into, both for my personal health and for my customers. And so one thing led to another, and here we are today talking about it.
That's amazing. And again, you use the word sustainability, I think is such a huge word. And I don't even think, most people don't even realize the full crisis that our planet is facing right now with, from literally losing millions of land to things like genetically modified, crops and things like, again, all the carbon that's actually affecting our atmosphere, which, just so you guys know, I know that we live in Trump country. We're not getting into politics, but that is a real thing. It is changing our planet, and no matter how much you want to deny it and look at it. So, we have to do our part. I think that's an important thing. So just tell us about Bees on a Bicycle. I want to hear, because I know when we first went in, like, I'm not gonna lie, when I go see somewhere that I hear is about like sustainability or hears about health, I go in and I ask questions, and I went in and I think it was your husband that was there, right? And I was like, okay, we're looking for soil, but I don't want, just the typical organic soil. And I mean, he just rattled off, and that wasn't even you, so, and he's like, no, you want this is local, this has got all this stuff in it, and it's better than organic. And I'm like, okay, this is the place I want to be. So tell us a little bit about Bees on a Bicycle.
Well, why don't I answer your question quickly
about
about soil, because that's a great example of talking about Bees on a Bicycle.
Yeah.
And my husband, by the way, his last name is Truelove, and so I have this great last name, so I'm Cath Shaw Truelove.
Yeah.
And so when this morning I did some studying up for this conversation, and I was reading some information on the Rodale Institute website, and sustainability is all well and good, but the real term that we want to strive for is regenerative farming and also gardening.
Yes.
And what's really inspirational for we home gardeners is that we can make a difference in the carbon footprint if we all do a little bit.
Yep.
And so it's just you take small steps.
Yep.
And if many people take small steps, and I'm talking container gardens on your doorstep or on your balcony or at your aunt's house. You know, it doesn't even have to be at your house. You can have a little pollinator garden at your school or down the street. Or in those strips that are halfway between the road and the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And so there's lots of ways to do it. But getting back to soil, one of the things that we look for when we buy soil at Bees on a Bicycle is organic compounds that are healthy. There is lots of things in potting soil that I wasn't aware of until I got into this industry and started buying it by the pallet.
Yeah.
You know, I had to buy it in mass quantities, so I really look at it as opposed to, I just need something real quick. And so there's all sorts of municipal waste and ground up construction debris and that sort of thing in typical potting soil. And I was like, oh, gross. That's awful.
Sounds like it's going to make some good food.
Yeah, and then we plant our little veggies in them, and then we eat that, and then we wonder why we have health problems. So let's look at what can we do to buy good soil. But then on a bigger scale, on farming and that sort of thing, what can those folks do? And a lot of that has to do with composting. And so we sell compost because not everybody can compost. They don't have the right environment for it. There's not enough room or whatever. And so we sell compost also. But then even in our potting soil and regular soil, there's what are called microbes. And those microbes are tiny little
like bacteria and viral RNA and all kinds of like good, even things like, some healthy parasites, all kinds of good stuff that make up our entire microbiome, right?
Yes. So those things are sitting in your bag of soil, and what they do from a plant perspective is they allow those plants, they take what's in the soil and make it useful for a plant to be vital and thriving.
Wow.
And the cool thing about plants that are really healthy is that they don't need pesticides and herbicides because they're not like, oh, help me, spray something on me so I feel healthy again. They don't have to take the plant equivalent of pills.
Yeah, right. That's exactly it, right? They're not taking something to band-aid a problem, right? They know how to take care of themselves. I think that was another thing that I found that was so amazing was that you're worrying about like literally the soil and the bacteria, which that's something we talk about on the show all the time. All of our listeners know, like literally that's one of the biggest reasons our kids are so massively disconnected, such problems with ADD, ADHD, autism, all these different factors, because our microbiome and our gut and not only our gut but our skin, everything, guys, we're made up of more bacteria than we are cells, and we're made up of even more viral RNA than we are even bacteria. So all these things, if these bugs were out to kill us, we would have been dead a long time ago, right? But it's the same thing with plants. You take that away and you don't give them the proper environment, they can't thrive, and then in turn we can't thrive.
One of the things that I noticed is that it's this huge cycle. And so one of the things, we talked about pesticides and herbicides. Let's say we do go that route. I used to work at a big box plant store. And what I noticed is when I worked there and I came home, I'd have to flush my eyes out with water because the rims of my eyes would be inflamed and red. And I'm like, I'm working in a plant store. Where is this coming from?
Why is this happening?
But the thing is, when you sell plants that are on systemic, like with neonicotinoids, which we can talk about in a minute if you want. A systemic pesticide. Those plants are kind of geared to need more of that. And so when you send that plant home and you don't keep that up, the plant sometimes just doesn't thrive as much. And so that's why some of the big box stores sell it, they have an equal square footage of herbicides and pesticides as they do with plants. Whereas if you come to Bees on a Bicycle, you'll notice that we don't have any of that stuff. We don't need any of that stuff. And so what happens when people come into our shop and look at the perennials that we sell, they're like, everything is so green.
Yeah.
And they walk around and they touch the leaves and like, look at how strong these plants are. And I'm like, well, and so if I plant something up, for example, things come to bees and they grow, and so sometimes I put them in a bigger pot.
Yeah.
And if I do that, the first thing I do is I mix it with compost to get those microbes that we talked about.
Right.
And so the plant, by definition, is getting the nutrients it needs just from the soil. I don't need to fertilize it.
Right.
But let's say we plant those plants in our garden at home, but we plant them in a way that the rain comes through and then it percolates through the soil and then it goes down into the water table. And where does it end up? It ends up in the Tennessee River.
Oh, wow.
And then we treat that water and then we drink it. And so all those pesticides, all those herbicides, and that sort of thing all end up in the river.
Yeah.
And so when I moved here and I travel across the river, I'm like, wow, gosh, it's so pretty.
Yeah.
It's why a lot of us move here, because we want to be near the water.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's super polluted.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, and so how can we reduce that pollution? The way we can reduce it is by using less pesticides and herbicides and giving our plants the soil they need to be healthy in the first place and not need that stuff.
It's perfect. Man, this is like all that, like, especially on Facebook Live. If you guys are watching Doctors Warren on Facebook Live, all these people know this is like my language right here. This is amazing because, again, this is really, when you look at, I think overall, when we look at our general health, and again, I think one of our biggest crises that we face over the next, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years is how are we going to take care of our planet, because it is so directly connected to our health. You cannot have a sick planet and have a healthy people. It doesn't work that way. It's why we have more endangered species of animals than we've ever seen in the history of this planet. It is why we are, as mankind, we are having even areas of this country where our life expectancy is going down. We have 1 in 3 men are basically having issues with fertility. We have 1 in 4 women are having issues with fertility. We have a rate of 1 in 33 kids with autism. Guys, we have to do something different. And this is, to me, a major component, maybe the foundation of what we need to do, is taking care of what we're constantly in contact with, what we're breathing in, what we're touching, and then as well, what we're eating. So I know we got to go on a quick break, but when we come back, I will make sure that that Miss Kathy tells us a little bit about how we can connect with Bees on a Bicycle, where it's at, so that you guys that have been listening are like, man, I got to get over there today. But if you go right now, you might overwhelm her husband. So you maybe wait like 10 minutes and then go over there so that you can get everything that you need, guys. And again, guys, we'll be right back. This is Doctors Warren. This is Your Health Radio. We'll be right back. All right, guys, so as you guys know, this is one of my favorite topics of all time. I don't know if you've read, have you ever read anything or listened to anything with Dr. Zach Bush? Have you ever heard of him?
A little bit.
Yeah, so
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so he's been one of our mentors for a long period of time, and I think like his language and your language are so close, right? Because he talks so much about literally our connection to the planet, our connection to the soil, and like, I think it was the last time that my wife went over there, she was talking to you guys about like, okay, so this is what we're having happen with our plants, this is what we're seeing, and you guys gave her like this, what you're gonna have to describe it better. It's like kelp and like fish, like it looks like, guys, I looked on it, it looks like goo. I'm like, what is this stuff? But like after we put that on some of our plants, like they exploded.
Yeah.
Like they absolutely exploded. What is that stuff?
It's a marine-based plant food.
A marine, okay.
Marine-based, and so it's just got lots of nutrients that are naturally made.
Yeah.
And so you can imagine when the marine-based stuff goes through the water system, even if it's on your porch, those plants, those pots drain. Yeah. And then that drains into the gutter, and that gets into the water table, and it goes back to the sea,
nice.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you can imagine marine-based.
Yeah.
It's creating that cycle. That's and awesome. It's really healthy. And it's super useful. Yeah. One of the things, I'm not sure about the product that I gave your wife, but that is in our compost are lobster shells, which is it's a byproduct of the restaurant industry. And so basically it has a high amount of calcium, which is really useful for plants. And so we've got it in our soil, but also in our plant food.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
It's really fun.
Let's tell, because I know we have some listeners on here. We got a lot of local listeners that will listen on Facebook Live. So if you let them know where your place is. That would be the best. Yeah.
We are on right on Market Street. We are an urban garden center, so we are right downtown on Market Street. Thank you.
Yeah, it does.
Yes,
cool.
It's not as green as it usually is because here we are. It's August in Chattanooga, so we have sold off this inventory for a while. But I was showing somebody around yesterday, and we still have some really cool stuff. We just don't have 18 of each of the cool stuff, and so there's a lot to see. But we're at 1909 Market Street. If you want to know how to get there or see a map, just go to beesonabicycle.com. We're also on social media at Facebook and Instagram.
Nice. All right. All right, guys, welcome back to Wellness Radio. I am your health expert, Dr. Nathan Warren. I am here with the owner and founder of Bees on a Bicycle, and it's local here in Chattanooga. Again, she was actually just telling all of our Facebook listeners where they can go, to actually check this place out. And I was just telling her, man, it is like such a cool, like little setting right there. You said it's an urban garden center, and that's literally what it looks like. So like when I walked in there, I mean, it is a cool atmosphere. I really, really like it a lot. You guys did a great job with it. So if we can touch on it really quick, so what are some of these things that we should be getting prepared to plant as the fall is coming up?
One of the things that I think is really important with what we were talking about before is insects.
Yeah.
A lot of us are like, get rid of the insects, and they're even rebranded. They're called bugs because they bug us, right? We made a verb out of it. So the insects have gotten a bum rap by some branding with renaming them bugs.
Wow.
The thing is, insects are super important. Not all of them, and not in mass quantities. But the thing is if we leave them alone, they self-moderate because the big guys eat the little guys, and so forth and so on.
Yeah.
And so there's more healthy ways of coexisting with insects. The nice thing about certain kinds of insects is that they're pollinators, and pollinators are essential for our food supply. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry to get those that we have here in the United States that we export and also eat here in the States. And so it's really important that we treat our pollinators well. So that in mind, that your question about what to plant in the fall, I look at a full season interest of things that pollinators can use. There are 20,000 different bee species in the world.
20,000?
Yes.
I thought there were like 2.
Right, exactly.
That's so crazy.
So there's 20,000 in the world, and there's 4,000 in the United States. And so that in mind, there's all different kinds of bees. And so you can challenge yourself if you go out in your garden and look at the different kinds. They're different sizes and shapes. Their wings have different colors. And you can see, and if you really get into it, you can get a book. You can start to identify them.
Yeah.
The thing is that's important is that we get native plants that those bees and other pollinators can digest. And so the way I explain this to customers sometimes is imagine going to a hotel and saying, you know what, my husband and I have to have a king-size bed. And imagine they're like, take a look in all the rooms, and you go to the first room and there's a twin-size bed and another twin-size bed and then a double bed and then a queen-size bed, and you're like, oh, I can't get a sleep. I can't get a full night's sleep. That's kind of what these bees are dealing with. They see flowers, they see things that are pollinating, but they can't consume it because they can't eat it. Their bodies aren't made that way, because so much of what is sold in garden centers right now is foreign to them, and they can't eat it. So it's kind of like that,
I don't even
scenario
know if we
that
should
I
eat
said.
it, right? We walked in. I won't name the big box stores that we walked in. So we walked in there probably about 5 or 6 months ago, and I remember my son was like, oh, Dad, I can't even breathe. Like, he's like, what does that smell? I'm like, I don't know, man. It smells like you smell like you're almost like boxed into like an indoor chlorine pool or something. That's what it smells like. And you're actually halfway outside, and you're like, how in the world do you smell like this? But I didn't even know. I had no idea that there were that many bees. But now that you mention it, I think that's such an amazing thing, because you said if they can't digest the food that that basically we're cultivating, again, number one, they don't survive, right? But then number two, they're not pollinating what we need them to pollinate.
Right, exactly. Did you know that currently the almond crop in California, they have to truck bees across the country to pollinate because of the lack of pollinators.
Oh my
They are
gosh.
currently putting beehives on trucks and sending them out to California, having the bees do their thing.
Yeah.
Because so basically 25,000 bees can pollinate 25 million flowers a day. So when people say, "Oh, well, it's
They
not
travel.
a big," it's not a big deal if they're not around. Imagine doing that with your finger.
Right. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And say, "Oh, I'll cross pollinate. It's no big deal."
Yeah.
Imagine doing the work that those bees are doing.
Oh my
It's
God.
just there's just no
You can't
way.
do it, yeah.
And so we really need to be mindful of that. And it's not only bees; it's
Yeah.
also butterflies and moths and all sorts of other winged creatures.
Yeah.
And so it's just important to kind of be mindful of that. And so strong plants, healthy soil,
Yeah.
allow for those plants to eat delicious and nutritious food,
Yeah.
pollinate, and then also help our food supply. It's like I was saying
It's a
earlier, it's
beautiful-
all together.
Yeah, beautiful cycle there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, like, and guys, just so you know, like, wherever you're at, even in a city, this works because we're like sitting out on our balcony and we're directly in the middle of the city, right? And so we can sit out on our balcony in the morning, and I'm telling you, there's literally bees that come to our plants. We've seen butterflies that come to our plant, and I look around and I'm like, how did they even, figure out they were right here amongst all of these things that to me would look scary for insects, and yet they're here, right? And they find their way there, and our kids love it, right?
Yeah.
They absolutely love it. It's funny, our kids nowadays, in our society, they look at butterflies like they're this like amazing thing because they're nowhere around anymore. You may see like one or two of them a month, but you don't see them everywhere anymore. It's a really sad scenario.
Well, it depends where you do your research, but the monarch butterfly population has decreased significantly.
Yeah.
And so there's different numbers out there, but it's rare to see one, whereas I remember when I was a kid, I saw them all the time.
Yeah.
And then the neat thing about being here in Chattanooga is that we're in the flight path, and so we do get that opportunity to see them. We don't see them as much as we used to.
Yeah.
And so people are planting things like swamp milkweed and that sort of thing. And so there's a whole bunch of different kinds of plants. A lot of them have weed names like ironweed and swamp milkweed and that sort of thing because they do propagate quite readily, and
Yeah.
so be prepared for that.
Yeah.
But if you plant it in a container, you're going to contain that.
Right, yeah.
And so, but not to say that something isn't going to eat a little bit of that and have excrement someplace else and spread it around. I mean, that's how plants often spread from one place to the other.
Yeah. And we don't need our yard anyway to look like a golf course, right? I mean, that's not even natural. So, if you guys are out there trying to make your lawn look like a golf course, you may spend some extra time, like maybe loving on your family or doing something fun that you enjoy to do, and just leave the garden and let it do what it needs to do. I mean, goodness gracious, I see all these like perfectly manicured, and I'm like, I wonder how many pesticides and herbicides and Roundup went on that yard to make it look like that.
Well, it's funny. We have a garden at my house. Graham and I work, and so turf management in our family largely is Graham's bailiwick.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of like, if it's green and it's the same height.
Yeah, doesn't it all look the same? I agree. I think the same thing.
And and the fact is that we have folks in our neighborhood that use chemical companies.
Right.
And their grass isn't as green as ours because we don't have a monoculture.
Yeah.
It's not all the same crop of grass, and so we've got different things getting green at different times, and so as a result it averages out as green more often throughout the year.
Yeah.
And so I kind of look at our yard and I'm like, well, we've got green.
Yeah.
It's natural, and we're not using pesticides. And I look at the people that use mostly herbicides, broadleaf herbicides, and there's months out of the year that
where it's burnt out. Yeah.
kind of funky looking.
Yeah,
And I'm like, if their goal is to get a green lawn, I don't know.
They're going down the wrong direction, right? Yeah, I agree. So if your goal is to get a better green lawn, you need to go see them at Bees on a Bicycle. They'll help you. So tell them how they can connect with you. Again, let's give our radio listeners your location and give them an idea of what they can expect when they come in.
Sure. We're at 1909 Market Street, which is just 4 blocks south of the Choo Choo. And so we're right before you get to 20th Street, where all the car dealerships are, on the right-hand side as you're heading towards St. Elmo from downtown. We can be found online at Bees on a Bicycle and Instagram and also Facebook. And we have a website, beesonabicycle.com, which has the hours that we're open, has a set of resources of things that we've been talking about today, and all sorts of other updates. Oh, we have a whole bunch of different workshops, which is a great way to get your feet wet and come in. Throughout October and November, we've got kind of a workshop and a pop-up with a local food maker happening at the same time, and we're focusing on folks that cook in sustainable ways using things that are organic and good for our bodies.
Get out of here! So when are they going to be there? Like, how's that going to work?
They're going to be there on Saturdays, and the whole list of everybody that's coming is on our Facebook page at at Bees on a Bicycle, and
we'll
also
make sure to share that on ours too.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
See that. That is awesome. What a good idea, man! That's awesome.
Fun.
Yeah, so you guys need to get out there today, right? Again, give her a 10-minute head start so that way we're not overwhelming her husband all at once. But get over there and let them teach you how. It doesn't matter what size space that you have. It doesn't matter, if you've got this massive farm or if you've got this, this small little urban area. Let's start making our planet much better. Let's start again kind of creating this beautiful cycle that leads overall to the health of us, right? I mean, it's literally when you help contribute to the health of the planet, we help contribute to the health of us. So Bees on a Bicycle, get over there today. Check them out online, beesonabicycle.com. And man, we just really appreciate you being on. This was great.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for this conversation. I'm really, really glad to have this opportunity.
Oh man, this is like completely up my alley. So this is fantastic. So I know, guys, we got to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to dive into some more of the show. This is Dr. Nathan Warren. I'm your health expert, and this is Wellness Radio. We'll see you right after the break. All right, guys, Bees on a Bicycle. Go check them out, man. It's gonna be fantastic. We got to come over there and like finish off like our stuff, getting ready for the fall. Cause like I think now our kale, I don't know is it called flowering, where it's like so our kale is like at that point, and our lettuce was a few weeks ago, super bitter, right? But I was like, hey, we don't ever eat anything very bitter anymore. I'm like, I'm gonna eat it regardless and see what it does to my digestive system.
Well, lettuce is a cool weather crop. In August, it's not cool weather, and so the reason that's called bolting, and it's it's the plant's way of saying I am done.
So they were done, and I ate it anyway. So
very bitter.
So that we're learning at the same time too. So we got to make our way over there and get some more stuff. But we appreciate you being on.
You're very welcome. Very welcome.
And if you could make sure share your stuff with Dr. Rebecca on your way out, so that way we can post like all of your events and everything on our line too. So
I will. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah.
All
good
right.
to see you.
All right.
Your
Take
husband
care.
to sit hi. Okay.
I will for sure.
We'll see
Take
you.
care. Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. So